No helicopters have been procured for me to go to golf course. Thank you.
I never said he wasn't a great politician. I'm just saying he's a officer.
It's supposed to be an interview.
How'd you play out there today?
Well, I found the conditions challenging, mostly because there's no grass on the golf course, but there never has been.
I'm thinking about the swag bag, and I have high hopes for the swag bag.
When you got 3 crevices on the green, your course is trash.
What's happening, folks? Welcome back. Episode 19, Beltway golfer Alex Dixon here. Will Smith, co-founder of National Links Trust, is this week's guest. For regular listeners of the podcast, you'll remember that the very first episode 1, our first guest was his co-founder, Mike McCartin, which was recorded a couple weeks before the National Park Service announced who was going to win the bid to operate the 3 courses, Langston, East Potomac Park, and Rock Creek Park, for the long term. And so it was neat to sit down with Mike before they announced that National Links Trust did win that bid, and now with Will, after not only them winning the bid, but taking over operation, which happened in the first week of October. Will and Mike have been on a number of podcasts together talking about the project, so it's been neat here to sit down with each one of them individually, learn more about them, their kind of story and journey in golf that has led them to founding National Links Trust and to this project here in D.C. Can't say enough, obviously, of how important and huge this project is to municipal golf and public golf around the country, but more importantly, or more importantly to me, I guess, here regionally and specifically in Washington D.C. and to the golf community here in the area. These are just tremendously important courses and a huge piece of the golfing community here, and what National Links Trust plans to do with them and what they're going to become is just huge. To me personally, East Potomac Park's the closest public course to my house. It's the course I play most often annually. It's my de facto home course. Rock Creek and Langston not far behind. I love the courses as they are now, and I am beyond excited at what they will become. I feel fortunate that I have an open line of communication with both Will and Mike and the team at National Links Trust. And one of my big takeaways from this conversation with Will is, this isn't happening overnight. This is going to take a while. It's probably going to be 5-6 years, and maybe even a little bit more before all 3 courses are completed with the renovation. So there'll be lots of opportunities to ask more questions, to talk with them more, to have other folks involved in the project on this podcast going forward, which I certainly plan to do so. Before I get to the conversation, a few other things. If you missed on the Golf Channel this past week, the excellent documentary about Skyview Golf Club in Asheville, North Carolina called Muni, I encourage you to check it out. It's on YouTube, on Callaway Golf's YouTube channel. It's a great example of what municipal golf can mean to a community and just how cool it can be. I encourage everyone to check it out. This past weekend, we mentioned it in our conversation, there was a World Long Drive event, or I guess not World Long Drive. World Long Drive is the tour that's owned by Golf Channel that they're actually looking to sell, and so the World Long Drive tour is kind of on hiatus right now. But it was a long drive event called the Capital Long Drive Classic, the inaugural Capital Long Drive Classic, that due to COVID, they didn't really announce, and the public wasn't invited because of COVID restrictions, but it's going to be on Golf Channel. Sounds like in December, though that's not definitive, but keep your ear out from when that comes on, because I think it's going to be really cool. I was able to attend, take some pictures, take some video. It was a really well put together event. I know the competitors were really excited to do it, in part because there's not a lot of long drive events going on right now as Golf Channel tries to find a buyer for it. Lake Presidential. If you saw on my Instagram stories, Lake Presidential is on the market for a song, $1.75 million for the entire property, which is perennially one of the top 5 or 10 public courses in Maryland. Not necessarily a walkable layout, but a great layout nonetheless. 20 minutes outside of D.C. I'm a big fan of Lake Presidential. You may have noticed or cut, if you listen to episode 17 of this podcast, our conversation with Bob Sturgis, the owner of Worthington Manor. We were talking about best of lists, and we were kind of alluding to a state of Maryland course that stayed on the list despite a couple years of that kind of dipped where it came to course conditions. We were referring to Lake Presidential, but I'm a big fan of the course and excited to see who buys it and what becomes of it. But from what I understand, due to zoning restrictions, it will definitely stay a golf course, which is good news. Last thing, still got some T-shirts, the inaugural Beltway Golfer T-shirt. I think it's sold out of large, but all the other sizes, a few left. Once those are gone, on to different designs and different iterations of that design for other merchandise. Got some towels and hats coming in next week, so stay tuned for that. But that's it. Let's get to it. Episode 19, Will Smith, National Links Trust. Here it is. Enjoy. Will Smith, how are you?
Good to be here with you.
This is fantastic. So today is, what is today? Today's October
19th.
19th. Wow, I was about to guess. I was going to be way off. And National Links Trust has been the lessor of East Potomac Park, Rock Creek, and Langston for how many days now?
This is technically our 15th day. This is week 3, first day of week 3.
How's it going so far?
It's going great. We've had really good weather, with the exception of that hurricane that kind of blew through. But we've had great weather, and this week looks great. So fingers crossed it stays dry and warm for as long as possible.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So my very first guest on this podcast was your partner, co-founder, Mike McCartin, but that was before the bid was even announced, the winner of the bid.
Yeah.
So let's kind of
things have changed.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
Yeah. So let's start there for a second.
That was mid-May when you recorded that, or something like that. Late May.
It was late May, maybe right at the beginning of June.
Yeah.
Maybe late May.
Yeah.
But it was like maybe 2 weeks before the bid was announced.
Yeah.
And I think I told a few people this. I might have even posted it on Instagram. I can't remember. But right after I posted that episode, and I mean like right up to the weekend, I think they announced it on Monday, right?
Yeah, correct. June 27th.
I was getting, and I'm sure you were getting all kinds of messages and stuff, and I want to hear all about it. But even myself, just as the interviewee of Mike McCartin, I was getting messages from people saying, I love what National Links Trust is doing. I support them wholeheartedly, but there's no chance they're going to win.
Yeah, so I've told this story before, but the proposal was due February 28th, and we were grinding on it for January and February, and really the last 3 weeks of February it was just sort of nonstop. And I pulled up the website of what we knew to be certainly our main competitor, if not our only competitor, and sort of took a look at all of the heavy hitters that were associated with that organization. Yeah. And I hadn't done that. I did that 2 days before it was due. Oh, wow. And at that point I was like, oh man, we got no chance, but we got to see this thing through, put this thing in, and see if it comes through for us. And I think from hearing from the Park Service, they were just really impressed with the team that we put together. Our vision very much aligned with what they put in their cultural landscape reports. And so I think the combination of the team and the line vision with the Park Service and a passion for the game and a passion for these places, I think was what carried the day.
What was that bidding process like? I mean, was there an extensive presentation you had to put in front of the NPS?
No, I mean, this was pre-COVID, so you'd think that maybe there would have been a presentation, but I don't know the length of the document. Ended up, probably 100 pages.
Yeah.
I never got a full page count, but very detailed. Luckily for them, I think, lucky for us, they had put page limits on each section, in each criterion, which made it so that you couldn't just get lost down a rabbit hole and just keep going and going and going. You really had to figure out what was essential for the proposal, what they were looking for, and put it in in those page limits. So, it was probably 100 pages, not including sort of exhibits, spreadsheets and graphics and stuff like that.
Right.
So.
You mentioned that there was one competitor that you know about. Is that public information as far as like who that? I mean, I know who the other competitor was, but is it something you can talk about, or?
Well, I mean, it's Federal City Council. They were the ones who, to give all credit to Anthony Williams and Federal City Council. They're the ones who sort of put it in the put the idea out there to the Park Service to switch over to a long-term lease. And for whatever reason, at one point, I think it was going to be a sole source contract, and the Park Service.
It was like going to be like a done deal. It's a few years ago.
And then the Park Service decided to put it out for bid, and that's sort of when we got involved. Mike and I really started the National Links Trust to be able to tell the stories of what great places Langston and East Potomac and Rock Creek are. Their incredible histories, both from a golf course perspective and also culturally. We wanted to tell that story so whoever responded to the RFP would have that in mind as they did it and would respect those histories and legacies. And at some point we realized the best way to make sure the right thing happened at all of these places was to put together a team and respond. And that's what we did. And Mike and I have been in the golf industry for a long time and have contacts with great architects and other people in the game. And I wouldn't say it was easy to put together the team, but we went about and did it, and we've got some of the best and brightest people in the game who want to help us and help the city of D.C. to really realize the potential of these facilities.
Absolutely. But sticking on the process for a second, it sounds like was there much back and forth? Like once you submitted your bid,
no,
so they just reviewed it and said this is the one.
We knew that maybe we submitted on a Friday, February 28th, and it's leap year this year, right? And so I think it was March 2nd was the day that they were flying people in from across the country to sit on the panel to review the proposals.
Oh wow!
So we knew that probably by the end of that week, March 6th or 7th, that there probably had been a recommendation from the panel to the Park Service about who to choose. But it's the federal government. Things move a little bit slowly, and so we knew there wasn't going to be a quick turnaround.
Sure.
Then mid-March, COVID happens, and the world changes, and so we're March, April, May, we hear basically nothing. We don't know if COVID. We tried to reach out to some of our contacts to see if they were even still considering doing this year, or whether they were going to punt it a year. Yeah. I think in late May we kind of got the word that they were going to maybe make an announcement, maybe the following week, and then of course that got pushed back and back and back.
Yeah.
But we definitely, it was handed in. Mike dropped it off at the building right down the street there, and we documented it, and after that it was pretty silent for quite some time. So
did you get the sense that it feel like a bit of a, I don't know if upset win is the right term, but since Federal City Council had been working on this for quite a bit longer than you guys had, and you guys, National Links Trust kind of came in with you formed about a year before the bid, right?
So we formed in a little less than a year. The RFP came out in July of 19, excuse me, and we at that point had decided that we were going to put together the team to do it.
Sure.
I think it was a little bit upset. Yeah, we certainly felt like we were the underdogs.
Sure. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. But honestly, a lot of credit should go to Federal City Council for advancing the ball to make the Park Service realize what special places these were and how they needed a plan for the next, say, 50 years, which is what the term of the lease is.
So. Well, obviously, I want to talk a ton about National Links Trust and the future of the three courses. But you touched on it for a second. Your kind of experience in the game of golf, you and Mike's.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Will Smith for a minute and kind of go backwards.
Sure. Yeah.
So you're a local D.C. kid, right?
Yeah, born and raised. Yeah.
St. Albans, is that
St.
right?
Albans, correct? Yeah.
Excellent. So did you grow up in the city?
I grew up in the city. I moved around a fair bit: Georgetown, North Cleveland Park, then over in the Palisades. So all over Northwest.
And did you golf in high school?
I golfed a little bit growing up.
Yeah.
Came to the courses a couple times growing up. Didn't really get the golf bug until right before my freshman year in college.
Got it.
And after that, it was all downhill from there.
But you hit the books in high school because you're an Ivy League guy.
I did. I went to Yale, and very fortunate to be able to go to Yale, and not least because they have an incredible golf course. The Yale Golf Course designed by C.M. McDonald and Seth Rayner. And for students, when I was there, I think it was $17.
So you just get to play it as much as you want.
Yeah. I mean, you got to play it as much as you wanted, or as much as you could with your scholastic, stuff you had to study and all that sort of stuff. But it was such a great contrast. Yale's a very urban school, and to be able to go out to this oasis with just beautiful trees and just an incredible golf course, incredible design. That's where my love of golf and golf architecture really got cemented, and met some people who I'm still really, really close with today, and who I'm business partners with. And it was really fortunate that I got to go to New Haven. I'm not sure, I'm not sure how much of my education I use on a regular basis, other than the fact that I fell in love with the game and golf architecture.
And you fell in love with the game enough that was it immediately after undergrad that you went to UGA to study?
No, I actually, I went to work for Travel and Leisure Golf.
Okay.
It was a magazine under the Travel and Leisure, umbrella. They did, this was the late 90s. I was there for 2 or 3 years, and they were doing some great stuff. We were based out of Boulder, Colorado. It just had pretty much an ideal spot to be when you graduate college, to go out and hang out in Boulder and be involved in golf. And then around 2000, I decided I wanted to get into golf course design and construction, and that led me to University of Georgia around 2002. I think was when I first went there. And
there you met Mike McCartin.
Yeah, there I met Mike McCartin. Yeah.
You guys were in the same program?
We were in the same program. I was in my third year when he was coming in his first year. I had done some work for Tom Doak at the time, and Mike was starting his internship, I think right around the time he went to graduate school. Maybe did a summer before he went. And so Tom put Mike in touch with me. I sort of gave him the lowdown on what a great place Athens was and what a great program Georgia was. And so by the time he came, we were familiar with each other. And then, we were both DC kids, both loved golf architecture. At the time it was still okay to be a fan of the Washington football team. We bonded over that. And we quickly fell in love with the Georgia Bulldogs. So, it was a fun time to be there, and he was a great friend to be there with. So
sure. And so this was, 17, 18 years ago, and now this has come full circle with you now bringing Doak into this project.
Yeah.
But then even after UGA, I was looking at your resume earlier. You worked on a couple of high-profile courses.
Yeah.
Including one with Gil Hance, who's also involved in the project.
So, Tom is really good about nurturing young talent through his internship program, and then, if his guys like you, I think you get brought onto other projects. And so I for a few years during graduate school and afterwards, I worked for Tom on a number of different projects. Both restoration and new construction. On the new construction side, I would say Ballyneal and Savonic are two of the most prominent courses I worked on. And on the restoration, places like Holston Hills and Essex up in Windsor, Ontario. It's just, it was just a blast to be involved in such wonderful projects.
Sure.
And to be able to learn from Tom and his guys. And then as you kind of get better at your craft, but also maybe more expensive, Tom kind of phases you out. And, I was very fortunate to kind of hook up with Gil and Jim Wagner a little bit, and worked on a number of projects with them before.
So it's more profitable for him to have good, cheap, young labor.
I didn't say it, but he's a good businessman. He understands.
Of course, I'm not saying it as a negative.
There's a lot of people who want to get into the industry who are talented and young and hungry, and it makes sense to take advantage of, not take advantage, but to use that. But also, he gives back a lot, because these people are, these are the guys like Kyle Franz, who I worked with, who did the work at Mid Pines and Pine Needles. These are the guys who are going to be the great architects for the next 20, 30 years.
The future of the industry.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. So.
Yep. And so you worked in course design and course building for a while. Yeah. When did you come up with a concept for the Outpost Club?
So I'll try to give you the quick rundown.
Sure.
I was out. Kyle Franz and I were out shaping the Prairie Club Dunes course out in Nebraska for Tom Lehman, which I was really excited to see. Just got ranked by Golf Magazine in their top 100 in the U.S. at number 82. I've been saying for years that it's vastly underrated, so I'm really excited to see it.
This is the first time it made that ranking.
Yeah, first time it's made that list. And so I'm really excited by that. And so Kyle and I were out there shaping that golf course. And sort of concurrently with that, my friend Colin Sheehan is the Yale golf coach who I met at Yale. We had always had this dream of designing and building golf courses together. And rather than having some rich guy pluck me out of a bulldozer and say, here's this wonderful site, come design it, we sort of felt like in order to do that, in order to have that opportunity, we'd have to find the land, raise the money, put together the whole deal, and do it all. And because we, were sort of complementary in our talents and had a lot of friends who were in the industry, we felt like that was something we could actually accomplish.
Yeah.
And so Kyle and I got introduced to this site out in Nebraska, which is spectacular, these heaving sand dunes, but it also had an 80-acre spring-fed lake in the middle of it. So I called up Colin. He called up Quentin Lutz, who's our third partner in the Outpost Club. They came out and took a look at it and fell in love with it. And we put together a prospectus. This was going to be the Outpost Club. First, it was going to be a multiple destination club with a large membership, low dues. And we put together a prospectus, tried to go raise money, and that was the fall of 2008. So the world had literally just fallen off a cliff, and all these people...
and you're asking people to spend a decent amount of money
to build a golf course in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and everyone was like, this looks like a great site. We love you guys, but this is not the right time. And so we went back to the drawing board, and one of the concepts that we had was from the moment that you option the land to the first golf shot being hit on it can be 5, 7, 9 years. And so we had always thought to host events all across the country, to A, sell memberships, but B, build camaraderie amongst the people that had already signed up for this club, right?
Sure.
And we realized that we actually didn't need the golf course to do that. We had great relationships throughout the golf industry at private clubs, and at the time, the private clubs were in various states of some were doing better than others, and we basically pitched them on a little bit of the UK model, where they would open their doors to a group of vetted private club members who understood the culture, liked to play fast, take caddies, respect the golf course, replace their divots, fix their ball marks, and our timing on that was great. And so we launched in February of 2010, and I've had, I'm really the most lucky person in the world, because the last decade I've been traveling around the world playing great golf courses with great people. So I've got the best job in the world.
From 2010 to the National Links Trust, that's your career. That's your full-time job. Is that right?
I mean, there's a number of other smaller stuff that I've been involved in, but that's what takes up the bulk of my time.
But it's fair to say it's been extremely successful.
It has been a good ride, yeah, for sure.
And we didn't really explain it to be. I mean, it's a club for people that appreciate fine golf courses, golf course architecture, like to travel, and so that your membership is all over the country, all over the world.
Yeah, I think we've got 41 states and 10 countries represented in our membership, and it's people who love the game, love to travel, and play great places.
But and I'm going to mention this because I think there is kind of a dichotomy between the Outpost Club and National Links Trust.
Sure.
Are all of the Outpost Club, are they all members of private clubs themselves?
I wouldn't say everyone, but the vast majority of them are, for sure.
A lot of where you visit, I mean, these are some of the creme de la creme of golf courses. A lot of private clubs, a lot of courses that are hard to get to.
Absolutely, yeah. No doubt.
Which is interesting that now you are leading one of the most important municipal golf projects in the country.
I'm not going to say it's penance for all the good, what I've been doing, but look, I truly believe in giving back. Let's see, in 2015, the Outpost Club, we realized that we had this incredibly generous, caring membership, and so we started the Outpost Foundation, and our main program to date has been giving scholarships to young men and women who work at the clubs that we visit throughout the course of our travels. And so we've given out over I think it's a couple $100,000 in scholarships over the last 5 years.
Oh, wow.
This year, with all that was going on with COVID, we started an emergency relief fund for independent contractors affected by the shutdown. Mostly caddies, and we've given out over $225,000 just this year to caddies who were affected by the pandemic. So
And the Outpost Foundation is a separate organization unto itself.
yeah, it's a separate
501c3,
organization.
right?
It's its own 501c3, but the board is made up of Outpost Club members, and the majority of our, I would say 98% of our donations come from Outpost Club members. And so, yeah, the Outpost Club is this golf society that's about traveling and playing great places, but our membership is cares about the game and cares about the golf community, and so while it's a little bit of a jump to go from the Outpost Club to National Links Trust, I'm the immediate past president of the Outpost Foundation, and I truly believe in giving back to the game, and it's given me so much. I mean, I just can't imagine where my life would be without the game of golf.
Absolutely. And that's congratulations. It's terrific about the money raised and the scholarships of the Outpost Foundation. That's great work that you do. I am curious that, so now you're leading National Links Trust, and we're going to get into the 3 courses here.
Yeah.
What does, so the Outpost Club with their membership, the majority of which are members of clubs, how do they view what you're doing with National Links Trust in these courses? I mean,
I can only say by the percentage of people who have donated to the National Links Trust. I don't know the number of how many of the Outpost Club members have donated to the National Links Trust, but it's a pretty, it's at least 20%, maybe closer to 40%, somewhere in that range. So, the Outpost Club members, well, they're about traveling and playing great places. They care about the game and are putting their money towards this project, and it's obviously partially because they've got a personal relationship with me, but mostly it's because we believe that as Outpost Club members, we're really, really fortunate to be able to play the places that we get to play, and we understand that not everybody is going to have access to that sort of thing.
Sure.
And one of the tenets of National Links Trust is engaging golf course architecture, and that's what the Outpost Club's about. And so I think the Outpost Club members realize that if they can help bring engaging golf course architecture to a wider group of the golfing public, that's a benefit for them. And I know the Outpost Club members, once we get these courses rehabbed, are going to be some of the first ones in line to go check it out. So.
Yeah, that's exciting. And maybe I'll edit this and put this at the end of the conversation. But one of the places I'm going is I'm almost curious about a larger conversation, since there's so much energy and focus on this project, is just the long-term sustainability of private golf versus public golf versus some kind of hybrid model, or is it going to go in the other direction and become even more private?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a really good question, and it's something that I've been looking at for 10 plus years now. I think and this year has kind of thrown a wrench into everything. I think private clubs are doing better than they've ever, maybe not ever done, but there's increased demand and increased interest. So I don't know where it's going after this year, but the high-end super clubs are probably going to be just fine. The mid-tier is going to have to think of creative ways to potentially get new people through the door. One of the things we've seen through the Outpost Club is that if you get it's really hard to market as a private club. But if you can get some new people through the door who then go back to their communities or back to their clubs and say what a great time they had at a XYZ club, that's only good for XYZ club. Sure. And through the Outpost Club, we've sold a bunch of memberships, people going to places and who wouldn't have ever gone there and then decided to join. So
that's great.
I don't know. I think
it's a larger conversation. We might probably don't have enough time.
That might be part two.
Let's get to these courses. Let's get to National Links Trust. So you took over all 3 properties a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So walk me. I saw you posted on social media the other day. You've already started to look at the banks of the Anacostia and Kingman Island over at Langston. So let's talk a little bit about that.
That's one of the first projects we want to do. It's something that is not too expensive. It's not cheap, but it's something that we feel like we can accomplish in the short term that will make a very lasting and visible impact on the golf course over there. As anyone who's played out there knows, that when you go on, you cross the bridge on 10, you get this nice view of Kingman Lake, and then you get to the back 9 and you get on that island, and you lose all connection with the water.
You don't know you're on an island.
You don't know you're on the island.
Yeah.
There's water on both sides of you, and you have no idea.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is, and all of that stuff that is choking those trees is invasive exotic plants, and we're going to work with the Anacostia Watershed Society to remove all of that invasive exotic material, open up the views, and then replant the banks with native vegetation. So it'll be good for the golf course, it'll be good for the environment, and so we think it's a win-win and a really good first.
And I would imagine it'll make the back nine stunning.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'll make it
the
stunning.
tee shot on number 10 where you're going across the water.
Absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of holes that'll be really beautiful.
And I think it'll be good for the turf and drainage and all that sort of stuff. So it's a cool first project, something the Park Service sort of telegraphed for us in their cultural landscape report. They sort of said, the potential, the next thing that someone should do would be to partner with the Anacostia Watershed Society to work. I mean, so it wasn't like we came up with this genius idea. It was we followed their recommendation, but we think it's a great recommendation. So.
Sure. So have you decided as far as the timeline, sure, but like in what order work is going to happen and which course?
Yeah, I can tell you what we laid out in the RFP. Whether or not that's exactly how everything's going to work is, no one really knows. But the idea would be to work on Rock Creek first, then Langston, and then East Potomac. It doesn't mean that we won't be doing, drainage improvement and cart path work here or at Langston while we're doing the other stuff. But the big major capital improvements, that's the timeline that we have laid out. But again, that's all subject to change depending on a lot of different factors.
With potentially starting at Rock Creek and shutting things down, how soon?
Yeah, it's another thing we're looking at. We think sometime next year. We're not 100% sure.
Got it.
Yeah.
From what I understand, this project's going to take a lot of money.
It is, yeah. And I don't want to go into the details, but when we submitted, we had a big capital partner lined up for sort of phase one. Due to the pandemic, that's been pushed down the road a couple years. So we're
meaning the capital coming from that partner.
Yeah. So we're very much in a fundraising mode right now. So if anyone wants to get involved, just we're not asking for your money, but I'm saying go to our website, nationallinkstrust.com. Sure. And sign up for our newsletter. So that's all the pitching I'm going to do today.
Sure, but does that mean we're events, fundraisers, parties, anything, any kind of creative fundraising?
Absolutely,
there's going to be a lot of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you're open to ideas.
We're open to new ideas. Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyone who cares about these places, we want to talk to you and hear your ideas and hopefully we can get to the good stuff and getting in the dirt as soon as possible.
Got it. And then Doak at East Potomac, Hance at Rock Creek, Welling at Langston.
Correct.
Do we have it right that all three of them are essentially offering their services at some level of pro bono?
Yeah, that's correct. Some level of pro bono. So, which is pretty incredible. I think those guys, again, they sort of like me. The last decade, I've been hanging out at these private clubs. Their bread and butter is sort of the high-end private club, and they understand the importance of what's going on at these places and how important it is to the long-term health of the game. So, I think they're excited to work on these projects for, A, because they're interesting golf courses and interesting properties, but B, they understand how important they are.
Based on what you've laid out. Like Rock Creek's going to have a pretty major renovation. It feels like the biggest renovation is going to be here, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest property. It has probably the most infrastructural challenges. And it's going to involve
also a pretty ambitious project.
It's an ambitious project, yeah. I mean, just the blue course alone would be ambitious, but because of where the blue course is going to have to sit, there's going to have to be some movement of other pieces of the property. And the white course is going to stay basically where the white course is, and the red course is going to stay basically where the red course is, but certain things are going to have to shift around a little bit.
Did I see on the map, or I thought the red course was going to move this way a little bit, take out that parking lot. Is that still the case? Or at least the one parking lot that's never used.
The original blue course, the 8th and 9th of the first 9 of the A course went further towards the river, and so it takes a little of that one. So everything's going to get shifted a little bit over, and we'll assess the parking lot. there seems to be more demand on the parking than ever, but we also don't want to have, we want to use this place for golf rather than asphalt. So
Sure. I've seen the routing when it got posted on social media of the plan. It's kind of hard when you're looking at it for someone with layman eyes like myself to make heads or tails of it. Is it pretty? Is it trying to be almost identical to the original Walter Travis reversible design?
Yeah, certainly the routing and the corridors we want to make as close as possible. I mean, Travis had it figured out, so it would be really sort of silly to try to reinvent it. Whether or not we put in every single bunker that was on that plan, that's something that we'll talk to Tom about. Obviously, there's some maintenance and cost considerations, but and also just sort of we want to make sure that the beginner and intermediate player can get around with some level of ease. But we're a ways away from having to make those decisions.
Sure. That's kind of where I was going earlier. So like Rock Creek, pretty big project. You're turning into rerouting some of the front nine, creating basically a new par 3 course in the back, building a driving range. Like, how long do you think a project like that would take?
It's probably 18 months from the time we shut down to being back open.
And then ideally, you don't shut down East Potomac. Would East Potomac be second?
Langston would be second.
Langston would be second. But Langston's got the least amount of work, right? Is it not too much?
I wouldn't say it's the least amount. I mean, I think it's still a complete rehab of the golf course, and it's going to be less rethinking of where holes are than.
But is there much routing change over there?
No, not much routing change at all, really. But it's still putting in all new irrigation, drainage, regrassing, new bunkers, new greens, new tees. So I mean, it's sort of replacing the golf course in place rather than rejiggering of stuff.
But maybe not as long as 18 months.
Yeah, and we might stagger that, so front nine, back nines. There's some different ways to do it so that maybe people still have access to golf while we're doing it. And we're actually looking at that as a potential at Rock Creek as well. So we're working through all that.
Like right now, the back nine's not being used very
much.
Right,
exactly. Right, and you could kind of implement the routing that we are looking to do while potentially building the driving range, and then have the driving range be open while you're redoing the rest of the golf course. We're looking at all possibilities.
Got it. And so then East Potomac would be last.
Yeah.
So now I'm doing the math in my head. Now we're out at 2024 or something.
Yeah, I mean that would be a good tight schedule. I'm just being.
So it's called 2025.
I don't want to. Even that's the thing is.
But nothing's happened to this course at least for another 4 years.
There's so much good momentum and everyone's so happy. Let's not.
We're not putting dates on it. I'm just saying. But my point was that it's going to be several years down the road.
Yeah, it's going to be down the road. None of this stuff is going to be immediate as much as we want it to be.
I wasn't trying to put you a date sooner. I was almost trying to put you a date further out.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that at no point, hopefully, or the plan is that two courses would be closed at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not going to promise that there will never be two courses because I just don't know how things are going to go. But the idea is to stagger it so that if one course goes offline, the other two courses are up and operational. And
So one of the biggest things here, and certainly in the back nine at Rock Creek, really all over East Potomac, I don't know. I mean, Langston seems to drain pretty well, but is drainage.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Like, are the like Doak and his teams? They're not doing that, are they? They're doing the draining.
Yeah. Well, I think Tom would, in conjunction with the golf architecture, would try to figure out the best way to handle the drainage. Yeah. And then at some point, if there's technical drainage stuff, you might have some sort of civil engineer involved. But first you got to figure out how you want it to work with the golf, and then figure out exactly how you get the water off the property.
One of the rumors I heard here, I'm not sure I heard from where, was that maybe creating a drainage pond here on.
Yeah, so that would be a last resort.
Okay.
The Park Service in their cultural landscape report correctly said there was never a pond out here, and so to introduce a pond would be against the historical nature of this property. Does that mean you can't create ditches or some low-lying areas where water drains and maybe not necessarily pond? Yeah, I think you could do that, but that would be a last resort. We definitely do not want to create any ponds.
I'm kind of a neophyte when it comes to drainage engineering.
Yeah.
Does water from the course drain into the channel or the river now?
I think there is water that's coming off the property through pipes that go underneath Ohio Drive.
But maybe not as efficient as it could be.
Yeah, we're one of the first things that we're going to be doing is assessing those pipes and see their structural integrity, how they're working, and see where, if there are issues, where those issues are.
Sure.
And then try to figure out how to get water to those pipes because they're currently it's obviously not draining as well as it could be. But also part of the problem is that this is built on a peninsula that's sinking, and the water may be rising, and so at high tide, obviously there's nowhere for the water to go.
Right.
So
another piece. So one of the big money makers here is the driving range over here.
Yeah.
So in your plans, the driving range is getting moved to, was it 7 and 8?
Yeah.
Of the white course.
Yeah.
Right up against Ohio Drive.
And
so I imagine that means a big fence, a big net.
Yeah, I mean these are all things we got to work out with the Park Service. So they've seen where we suggested it to go. That's what we submitted in the proposal. But we haven't had any talks about whether or not that's a realistic proposal. But again, they're on record as saying they want to see the restored blue course, and that means part of the blue course runs through where the driving range is now, and so in order to do that, you got to move the driving range. So we'll work with them to try to figure out the best place for it, and hopefully it'll be where we thought the best place was, but who knows?
Gotcha. So I've got a soft spot for the white course myself. Me and my group, we like to get out there and try to play first thing in the morning quite often. So the idea of the white course, obviously it's going to get moved a bit if the driving range is going over there. Yeah. But is part of the concept to try to recreate some of the original Flynn holes in the white course?
Yeah, we're going to do as much historical research as we can and try to respect that history. And if there are changes, we'll try to make it so that the course obviously is going to feel different than blue, and it'll have a Flynn feel to it. I think that's the best way to describe it.
What about, we've talked a lot about courses, or the courses themselves, and I think a lot of people, you've talked about the courses quite a bit on other podcasts, and Mike on this one earlier. What about the clubhouses at all three courses?
Yeah, so it's a good question. This is a historic structure, and so, we are going to be restoring and preserving this structure as much as possible. Whether or not the programming stays the same, I don't know. We're looking at a lot of different options for, maybe building another building that will house some of the functions that might work a little better. And, all to be determined. Rock Creek, part of our vision there is, we want that to become a destination for families and juniors. And we want to create a clubhouse that actually functions with F&B. We think it's just a beautiful spot for a young family to go out there and have the kids.
It's surrounded by residential neighborhoods.
It's surrounded by residential neighborhoods, but when you get there, it's just got these beautiful long views. You wouldn't really know that you're in the middle of this incredibly urban city. Yeah. So to create, I like to call it Mumford and Son lights, the string lights, and a big outdoor seating, and a place where the mom and dad can come and have a beer and a glass of wine and have some decent food and have the kids run around in a natural environment. We think it could be a really big draw.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I think it could be neat. And then at Langston, we're looking at a number of different options. The clubhouse, it is not a contributor. I don't think it's a contributing structure to being on the register, but that building has so much history that we want to respect that history, and whether it's a refurbishment or expansion or something, we want to increase the capabilities there to have more educational space, more event space for the community. Sure. So that's again, we're still early days, but those are sort of the broad strokes.
The clubhouse at Langston is really neat for a number of reasons, but one of the ones is kind of like you just kind of touched on, the history on the walls, especially as it pertains to African American golf. Yeah. I don't know the answer to this, but is there an African American golf museum?
I don't think there is, and we've talked.
Is Langston the de facto?
Yeah, I mean you could say so, and it was not part of our proposal because we wanted to be realistic in what we thought we could accomplish. Mm-hmm. But we have had some early talks with some people about potentially expanding that clubhouse to include an African American golf museum. So that would be spectacular. We would love for that to happen, but again, we're trying to be realistic about what we can accomplish and not promise stuff that we can't deliver on.
Yeah, I get it. And then you've got Troon Management.
Yeah.
Have they already started? Are they in?
Troon's in. Troon's in. Yeah.
And
I see Tim Krebs around here somewhere. At least I thought I saw him.
He's the new general manager.
He's the new general manager. Yeah, and Tim's great because
he used to work here, right?
He used to work here. He was the general manager. Tim Krebs is now the general manager of all 3 properties. I think I call him. I'm not sure what his title is, but he's the general manager of all 3 properties. He was for golf course specialist, the GM here for about 7 years. Before moving away. So he's come into this.
Not exactly an outsider.
He's not an outsider. He understands both the incredible opportunity at these 3 courses, but he also has his eyes wide open to the challenges. We're really happy with Tim and psyched that he's on board. And Troon's been a great partner.
What is the brand? I saw online. It's like one of Troon's brands. It's not.
Yeah, Honors Golf is one of their.
What is that?
It's one of their subdivisions. It's a company wholly owned by Troon. They work mostly in the southeast of D.C. or southeast of the United States. So, and again, Troon signed on early. We could not have done the RFP without them. They appreciated our vision, and while they were being approached by other organizations about being part of their bid, they signed on to us really early, and we're really psyched to have them as a partner.
I just played a Troon course yesterday, Potomac Shores down in Dumfries. So when these open, these are going to be, obviously it's going to be years down the road, but we're going to have 3 golf courses in the city done by 3 prominent golf course architects that will likely be destinations because you have people. DC is already a big destination for tourism, and now for golf tourism. Has there been any conversations around? I'm thinking like Torrey Pines, or I should say San Diego County, where you have like local rates versus out of towner rates, that sort of thing.
So we feel pretty strongly that these golf courses, they're own national parks. Mm-hmm. The guy whose taxpayers, who pays his tax dollars from Nebraska, should have the same pricing as the guy from Northeast DC. And so, we've looked at that model. We've explored it, but we think that these courses should remain affordable and accessible to anyone who wants to come and play them. So that's sure. Where we want to be. So
got it, understood. I'm not gonna pin you to a number, nor would you even have a number to give me. But have you talked about when we're talking about keeping it affordable and keeping it accessible, we need to keep it under X?
Yeah, we don't have a number. I will say that in our models, there's no big jump. It is slight increases over time, just like they've historically done.
Sure.
Obviously, post rehabilitation, the courses will be in better shape and be a different product. But we're not talking about jumps. We're talking about steady. Or it's not. You shouldn't say steady. Slight increases over time.
Got it. Well, that'll make a lot of people happy because certainly East Potomac, but and Langston, and maybe less so Rock Creek in recent years, but Rock Creek as well. I mean, these are institutions. These are places that people in the city, as the community relies on it as the golfing community here, certainly locally. I know I do.
Absolutely, and that's part of why Mike and I felt so strongly about getting involved, about actually responding to this RFP, because we didn't want whatever happened at these courses on the other end for them to become $70, $80, $100, $125 courses. It just would completely change the character of the places. It would change the people that use them, and it would suck the life out of the game here in DC. People, beginners wouldn't come out to play if they had to pay that, and people wouldn't come back to the game. And it was great seeing. I was out there today for our long drive that we're doing, and there's a group of 12, 13-year-old boys, foursome, walking with their push carts, and if this was $70, they wouldn't have been out there. I'm not sure what they weren't doing, not being in a virtual school, but still, it was great to see.
And the other unfortunate reality about golf in the Washington D.C. area is most of the good golf inside the Beltway or even near the Beltway is private.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so to get good public golf, you usually have to drive. I mean, University of Maryland's right there. That's good. You got some of the Montgomery County courses are good, but oftentimes you got to drive.
Yeah.
And so, since you've either won the bid or taken over just a couple weeks ago, I mean, what about just the sense of, there's some responsibility here, just as stewards of these three historic.
That's the word. That's the word we use. I was very fortunate to play with 3 members of the Wake Robins over at Langston on Saturday, and that's what I told them. I said we are so honored to be stewards of this golf course because of all the history and all that's gone on there. We feel a great deal of honor and to be in charge of these places and responsibility. I mean, it's a big responsibility. So
sure. Have you gotten a lot of good positive feedback from groups like Wake Robin?
I think right now everything's been positive, and
sure.
We want to keep that going as long as possible. We have our eyes wide open that there'll be some bumps in the road at some point, but it's good times right now for sure.
Got it. Excellent. What about National Links? So part of the kind of the National Links Trust mission, I mean, obviously, this was a big win. You guys got 3, but part of it, you go to the National Links Trust website, long-term,
sure.
kind of the idea of the whole organization is to do this not just in D.C., but elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a reason why we're the National Links Trust, not the District Links Trust. We want to, we're focused fully on D.C. right now, but we want to use what we learn here, be as transparent with other communities as possible, and help other communities protect their municipal golf courses, improve their municipal golf courses. And so, our thought long term would be to be able to help other communities all across the U.S.
Are there any that you have your eye on?
We're so focused right on D.C. now, and there's some people who have reached out, and we'd love to be able to help everybody right now, but we can't. So
very cool. We're almost out of time here, but so you just mentioned you just came off the course. You guys are doing a long drive competition, a week-long drive competition. This will probably come out. This podcast will probably come out after the event, but there's going to be a Capital Long Drive competition.
Long Drive Classic on the mall on Saturday. I think they're not promoting it too heavily because they're not really allowed to have a crowd, but it should be pretty cool. It's going to be on the Golf Channel, and we're psyched to be a small part of it. I think we're working with Golf My Future My Game, Craig Kirby, who you've had on your show. My Brothers Birdies, I think, are another one of the partners. And they're part of the event. So, and that's something that we haven't touched on. We haven't really touched on a lot in any of the stuff that we've talked about is that while we get sort of geeked out about the golf architecture and the potential for these places, the amount of good that we can do working with community groups at these courses is something that's just so important. We're announcing. Probably by the time this comes out, we'll have announced a partnership with Youth on Course. Youth on Course is not at these 3 courses now, but they will be, or are, I guess, maybe as we speak.
They're not based in D.C., are they?
No, they're San Francisco based. Are you familiar with it?
A little bit. I think I only heard about them first just in the last couple months.
So basically, I think that it's a $5 membership, and once you have your Youth on Course card as a junior, you can play at participating Youth on Course courses for $5.
Oh wow!
So I mean, it's just a great opportunity for juniors to get involved and play. So we're excited by that. We're announcing a partnership with the Evans Scholarship, Western Golf Association, to bring a pilot caddy program to here and Langston. Not because necessarily they need caddies, but we think the Evans Scholar program is such an incredible opportunity for kids. It can transform a kid's life and really their family's life by paying for full ride to college, and then they can accomplish. Young men and women can accomplish that by caddying at these courses. So there's a bunch of stuff like that we're doing. We're talking to the Golf Course Superintendents Association about their First Green initiative. I learned about this from Craig about a month ago, and I think it's just so cool. It's basically getting the superintendents to they go to STEM charter schools and introduce kids to greenskeeping as a profession and get them out on the golf course to see what that's all about. I think it's really, really neat. So
I would have been into that when I was in school.
Yeah, we're just so excited that not only do we get to kind of play in the dirt over the next decade, but get to do all of this stuff and hopefully make lasting impacts on the lives of the young men and women of our community.
That all sounds good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I think we're out of time here, so I really appreciate you sitting down with me. It was cool to have Mike on kind of before the bid, and now having you on after that you've taken over. So congratulations again.
Thank you.
I know the whole city's excited about it.
Yeah, well, I thank you for all you're doing for the city and golf. And it's I had a long drive last week and was able to catch up on a bunch of your podcasts.
Very
and
cool.
It was great. I mean, you know, you're really adding something, so we really appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, Will. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to we all look forward to following along National Links Trust and the 3 courses here.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Excellent.
I got to get Johnny Langston's ideas. I don't have a good golf game, but I don't really care. I'm a regular dude living in D.C., and I want to know about D.C.-centric golf stuff. If you can tell me something that I don't already know, then that is great for me. I don't want the regular stuff. I want exciting stuff. I want different stuff. I want stuff I can't hear elsewhere. But I want it to be about DC golf.